Right guys and girls, Mark Crossfield here today talking about driver swing release ideas. So trying to get the ball to work maybe straighter, more right to left even, get rid of those leaks to the right. So when it comes to hitting a driver, can we get that face to catch up with the path in a way that allows you not to have those open the face to path swings that slice the ball off to the right. These are really actionable tips that you can use when you're practicing and playing to hopefully help you hit the ball a lot more in play. So first ideas to think about is when it comes to your takeaway, when you take the club away from the ball, this can set themes for what might happen down at impact. So what I mean by that, if I start taking my backswing on a theme of what I would call outside of my ball, so the ball moves outside of an imaginary line that goes towards my target line here, I feel like I'm going to return it more to the left. This might start the ball up the left if the face is marrying and the strike does, and certainly start curving it a bit more off to the right. So we need some more functional themes, ideas with your takeaway. Two ideas I want you to put into place. I want you to think about the direction the club is traveling. So is it coming from out in front of you back towards you more, or is it going from out in front of you away from you before coming back towards you? You want it to come from out in front of you, so you imagine here the club's out in front of me, to be coming back towards me as soon as you can. So bring it back on those first instance. And then the second thing is we then need the face to marry with that. So as the club comes back towards me, I want this face to slightly turn down to the ground when I reach this first parallel. Now this first parallel, if you can get it more along your feet line to somewhere inside of that, this might encourage, set some themes of swinging more from your side out to the ball, which if the face is in place and you've got it slightly turned down at that first parallel, you're going to have an opportunity, a better chance of hitting a nice straighter, maybe better release drive and hit that ball longer and in play. So I've got a spare ball here. What I want you to do is just have a practice swing where you set back to this first parallel and maybe put it slightly more inside than you feel comfortable with, more inside than where it should even be with the face slightly turned down. Pick a spot on the grass behind you and put that ball there. So I'm going to put this ball, which is basically where that club was marrying up to, and I'm going to think now, first swing, if I take it away this side, well, that's pointing way over towards, say, this ball. I know that one for me is going to encourage more of a left to right kind of shape shot. And then if I go in between those two balls, that's where I feel like I might be more neutral, and I might find I hit X kind of shot, straighter, whatever kind of shot you might find you hit. And now I'm going to try and get my club much more over that inside one, just to get the feeling. So this kind of reproduction of feeling with a visual cue might just allow you to get that feeling working into a swing when you can't stop and you've got to just let it flow. Obviously you can do this when you practice, you can do this, you can do it on the course to a certain extent, obviously not when you're playing in a competition and what have you, because there's other things to play with, but on the course you haven't got a spare ball, you can just find little bits of dirt or whatever on the ground and try and line up with them. Remember to try and get that path a little straighter. The theme you set as you take that club away, so not only with where the face points but the direction the head is traveling for me, and find out what works best for you. If I get it more coming more behind me, face turning down, definitely encourages more of a right to left curve, which then encourages me now to start the ball down the right rather than the left. And that leads us on to our next tip. So the next tip, I want you to think about having some visual cues in what's in front of you and let the problem try and solve the problem. So what I mean by this, I've got a tree here on the left. Now if you're fading the ball, common things you'll see in videos, I've said it, other golfers say it, tee up on the right, hit into the left and cut it back. Now that's all fine and that works. It can work as a good visual cue for getting you to, see into a hole. But what I like to do with students is actually the reverse of that when they're trying to change the shape of their shot. So I want you now to actually tee up on the other side, the left, and lots of you will find this really horrible and tough at the start. So by coming over onto this side of the tee, now I can't start the ball straight or left, I have to start it down the right. So if I'm starting it down the right, it's important I've got that face slightly turned down to the ground. It's important that I get the club behind me, get my path working for a draw. I've got a physical barrier. Now you're going to need some spare balls, maybe some old golf balls. This is really hard to get your head around, people. This is just uncomfortable, but it's the uncomfortableness of this idea that really gets the golfer focusing on producing a different outcome because they're forced to. So sometimes setting the environment that you're practicing in is a better way than you just trying to change a particular movement. the movement might change because of the environment that you put yourself in. For lots of golfers it can. So that physical thing on the left, now me teeing up over on this side, gives me that visual cue of why I need to start the ball to the right, how this takeaway might influence and face position and different release position is going to encourage, hopefully, a very different shape of shot. Oh yeah, draw ball. So your takeaway might influence how you're releasing the club. Break down some of these ideas, getting it behind you with a little bit more of a better face position might encourage some better release positions. How you set your environment up to practice to teach you to hit different shapes definitely could encourage some better shots. Last tip, this one really works for golfers who are really struggling and want to feel a bit more how a different movement feels. So rather than having the other two that hopefully influence it, this one can really change people's feels of where it actually should be going on the way through. And you can use it in practice swing or actual shots, but harder in shots. So what I want you to do is literally set your club up here before you start the swing. So I've got the club in the air, I've got it in front of my lead foot. My lead wrist here is just angling forwards. Trail wrist is angling down and under itself. So basically I've released that head ahead of the handle. You see the face is pointing way off to the left, hands opposite the lead thigh. And what I want you to do is start there and try and turn that club back into that position. So feel at the bottom like you're flicking it back into that position. This really gives golfers the feeling of getting that head to overtake and get rid of these kind of held off horrible slicey follow throughs. Now, two ways you can practice this. You can do it in a practice swing before you hit the shot. And this is what I advise for people who are obviously playing and want to compete in an event. So I have a practice swing where you put it there, try and put it back into that position and simply walk into your shot, and you're now trying to recreate that feeling. Now this can work and it helps as a bit of a cue, but the issue with this is it doesn't always translate because there's quite a long time between drill and then shot. I do the practice swing, I step back, I then step in, I fiddle and lurk and try and get myself into position. So there's a bit of time where that feeling is just degrading every second. So the other thing you can do, and it's hard to hit balls like this, but it's good on a range or when you're just practicing out in an evening, is you can actually hit shots. So you can start here and then you can come through and try and hit a shot. Don't be afraid if you hit a few bad ones. Again, you might want to do this with a spare ball. So I'm just going to start over the ball. I'm going to bring it back just over the ball, but almost maintaining this angle. And then try and put it into a shot, and that's a nice, pretty neutral shot there. So it's something you can work into your practice so you don't get that degradation, that kind of degrading feeling of doing it and then stepping back and trying to recreate. Because that's the thing with feelings, visual cues, working out how something feels, is that those feelings can run out, they kind of wear off. Bleeding that into a shot sometimes can help. These are 3 great ways to try and help golfers understand how to let that club go, let that club release a little bit better, and maybe control that shape of shot you're hitting to hopefully start hitting a few more in play. Let me know how you get on. Thanks for watching. As always, post comments down below. Let me know if this helps. If it doesn't, let me know. Let me know things that you've practiced in the past that did help or not. I would love to hear. Speak to you soon.